Good morning, this is the Eager Beaver Show.
You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Miss V Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters. PsychicTarot.ca, book your tarot reading and unlock your spiritual journey. And the Pepper Master, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. Well, good morning and hello, kids and cubs, and welcome to Season 5 and episode number 687 of the Daily Beaver Morning Show. Always 100% Canadian. Today, recording day is Tuesday, July 8th, 2025, and it is a great day here at the Beaver Lodge. I am your host, the Eager Beaver, pronouns he, him, hey, Mr. Beaver, and with me today, as usual, is my good friend, Mr. Grizzly. Yay, so nice to have you back. A big thank you goes to our podcast founding sponsors, the Pepper Master, the Miss V Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, and PsychicTarot.ca. We have a show for you today. I won't say what kind of show it is. We have a show for you today. Before we get into it, Mr. Grizzly, how is your mental health today? And happy belated birthday.
Oh, thank you for that. Yeah, mental health, I think, is pretty good. I'm just really tired. It's only a 2-hour time difference, but you couple travel in with, traveling is exhausting. It is. I mean, I love it. I live for it, but it does take a lot out of you. And then, a 2-hour time change. So it's kind of like right now, what is it? It's, what is this, 7:15, so it'd be 5:15, Yellowknife time. I figure by tomorrow I should probably be better adjusted, but Saturday was a travel day, and then so Saturday was my birthday, but it was a travel day, and then I got home, took Lola out after she mauled me. I posted a little video of her going bananas when I walked in the door, and then went and had a beer with a buddy. Nothing crazy, nothing late, and then went home, went to bed, and then Sunday was up way earlier than I wanted to be because Lola insisted on going out at 6:30, and I said no, we're not going out before 8:00. So yeah, finally took her out, and then came back in and took another nap, and then went and saw my folks for a few hours and did some stuff around the house for them. And of course, my mom's like, "Here's some goodie bags." Like, she's every time I go over, she's like, "Here's some paper towels and toilet paper and Kleenex and crackers. And I know you can these cookies, arrowroot cookies. You love them, and Lola loves them. So here's some cookies." And I'm like, "You know what? Thank you. I appreciate it." And of course, she gave me 2 big bags of Kicking Horse coffee, like a giant bag full of beans, and then a separate ground bag. So, yeah, it was a mellow weekend. And then yesterday, I heard my alarm at 6. I shut it off. I heard my alarm at 6:30, and I put the snooze on, so it would go off again at 6:40, and I could get up to do the show. I did not hear the secondary alarm. I didn't. I was just exhausted, and I woke up, I think, around 8:30-ish, something like that. I'm not sure. So yeah, it's a bit of an adjustment, you know. Uh, I I I think yesterday when I woke up, it was kind of like, okay, if I don't, in my head, I'm thinking if I don't make the show today, it's not the end of the world, right? And you'd be the first one to say, dude, take the
Yes.
day. You need to rest, right?
Yes.
Had I had an office job that I will be starting at some point, I haven't given a date yet. Had I had to go to that, I would have been able to get up and do it, but I would not have been productive or effective,
Right.
right? And because of this is the show that you and I do together. I can, if I need to take the day, I can take the day. It's not like, it's not the end of the world. It's not like I have a ton of people depending upon me. I know you can run this on your own now, and it's when a day is needed, it's needed, and I'm thankful I was able to do that because boy, did I need it yesterday. I
Mm.
slept most of the day actually. I'm not joking. I slept most of the day yesterday, and then went for dinner last night with Bridget. Her parents took us out to Casa Mexico on Preston Street, so we had a nice Mexican dinner last night. It was very
Oh,
nice.
how is that? I've always wanted to try that one.
Very good, very very good actually.
Yeah. Oh,
We had
excellent.
they had I wanted a Corona Zero, right? Because
Right.
I just didn't want any alcohol, and normally they have it on the menu, but they were out, and I just like I don't want a soda, and I looked and they had a mocktail, a margarita mocktail, and it was spectacular. It tasted
Okay.
exactly like a margarita with no tequila in it. I was like, wow, it was really good, and they had like a spicy salt.
Mhm.
It was a red spicy salt. I don't know what else to call it. That's what it was, but it was just the perfect amount of spice, but the perfect amount of salt at the same time. It was a spectacular drink and no alcohol. So I wake up feeling, you know, human.
Yeah, good stuff, good stuff. Yeah, good day for me yesterday. I, had no dips. Everything was great, nice, smooth, sailing. Had a wonderful, dinner as well. Um, just a calm day.
Mhm.
Did a couple of, ran a couple of errands and, doing some work for the show and stuff, but, so, like, nothing eventful, nothing big, nothing spectacular or anything, but, just, a nice, calm, smooth, steady, uh, slightly more productive than usual
Right.
day. But I'm in the same boat now. It's like 2 of the last 3 days, I've actually needed the alarm to wake me up, or else I would have just gone right through as well. So, yeah, uh, I'm a little bit like you, not exactly fully awake yet,
Mhm.
but in, good spirits, and, certainly, would not have objected to rolling over and taking another hour.
Yeah, 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 I know what you mean.
Yeah, but, the kits and the DAMFAM beckon and await, so
Well, and this is the thing, and I hate to let people down. Not that
yeah.
anybody's depending upon me, but, I still like to put my time in, and that's just hence the reasoning why I was getting up at 4 a.m. and Yellowknife to do it. Although I did miss a day last week, I think, if memory serves.
Yes, that's
It,
okay.
trust me when I say this, getting up at 4 a.m. to do a show is really challenging.
Mhm. You, gain a new appreciation for Heather Hiscox.
Yes.
She's up at
Well,
3 a.m. every morning, right, to be on air at 6 or something.
and the thing is, it's that's her full time gig,
Right,
right? So, and I do appreciate it. I'm not diminishing
right?
what she does. I'm not, but the difficulty I found was you're going to bed at 10:30 at night and it's still sunny out. Sure, you pull the curtains down, you close the blinds, but you're still your body goes, dude, it's light out. You're supposed to be awake. You sleep when it's dark. So putting the blackout curtains and the blinds down does not make you immediately fall asleep. And as a result, you lie there for a while and then, finally you fall asleep around midnight. And the next thing you know, the alarm's going off at 4 a.m. It's like, oh,
Yep,
yeah. So
yep.
doing the show on the road, I enjoy. I enjoy that, and I'm glad I'm able to do it. I mean, we did 2 weeks from Calgary last year.
Mhm.
We did a one show, one pubcast in Kingston, and then a week in Yellowknife. Where do we go next? I don't know.
Hey, you never know. Like this
Exactly.
the country will beckon. The
Oh
country
yeah.
will beckon. Before we get into, anything, scheduled here, um, just a little bit of a wildfire update, for those who are in, Manitoba in, particular. there are some new warnings and evacuations and all of that stuff. But yes, communities in northern Manitoba are being threatened again. And I believe we have a little bit of a news clip there, Mr. Grizzly, that I just sent you in the chat to put up.
I do love that.
The small town of Leaf Rapids, which is about 1,000 kilometers north of Winnipeg, is under an evacuation order. About 320 to 350 residents are affected. Firefighters had made progress over the last couple of weeks. However, rising temperatures and dry conditions are posing a threat again. Kristen Hayward with the Manitoba Wildfire Service says, we've had a lot of lightning go through the province with numbers really escalating. We were seeing over 25 new fires every 24-hour period. The fires don't necessarily pop up right away when lightning strikes. It could take about 3 or 5 days for things to develop. It's pretty bad there. There are 81 active wildfires in the province, but 16 are near depopulated areas, the largest one being Thompson, Manitoba, where about 12,000 people would be impacted if there's an evacuation order. There's, as of last evening, there was a fire about 15 kilometers to the northeast, which is being watched. And there's a town there that, unfortunately, is being evacuated for the second time in the last little bit. There. So, Mr. Grizzly, if you would play the
Several
clip.
northern Manitoba communities are being forced to evacuate once again. Fires continue to threaten multiple parts of the province. So for a closer look at this fire and others, Mark Carcassol joins us again this morning. What's happening in Manitoba?
Marianne, a recurring nightmare for many people in many parts of Manitoba. In particular, we'll start with Tatasquiac Cree Nation, which is about 700 kilometers north of Winnipeg. That area was already evacuated once already this fire season. It wasn't long ago, and now residents there find themselves evacuated from their homes again due to a new fire that just struck up on Friday. It's a fast-moving fire. It's a strong one, too. Officials say it's already damaged at least 7 homes in the community. 175 people from Tatasquiac Cree Nation have been evacuated to the community of Gillam now as a precaution. Here is the announcement from the chief of Tatasquiac Cree Nation, Doreen Spence, on Facebook.
Once again, if you're here in the community, we all have to leave. Gas up, pack your stuff, and go to the band hall. Or if you need a ride, you can message myself. The RCMP are knocking on doors here again just to make sure everybody is out of their homes.
Tatasquiac was just evacuated in May due to fire concerns there of a different, much bigger fire. And then over to Lynn Lake and nearby Marcel Colombe First Nation, surrounded currently by 4 different wildfires you see there. The one in the red is the long-standing fire that's been burning, the second one during wildfire season in Manitoba this year. That was the cause for the initial evacuation. But in recent days, a new fire has struck up due to lightning. And so now they are evacuating Lynn Lake again and the almost 600 people who live there, along with about 150 residents from nearby Marcel Colombe First Nation with high priority medical needs that need to get away from that smoke and the bad air quality there. Also, the fire is expected to hit power lines that feed Lynn Lake, and if it does that, officials say Lynn Lake could be without power for up to a month. You can't have people living without power in the summer with so many essential services done with the power grid, obviously. So people are being sent to Winnipeg. In this case, here is the mayor of Lynn Lake saying that his residents have had a tough time this summer.
The residents, I think, are they're putting on a strong face, but I can only imagine mentally people will be not doing too great. It's been a summer that you wouldn't wish upon your worst enemy.
Something you could say for many parts of Manitoba, including Pimicikamak Cree Nation, which also had to evacuate once already and is now sending over 180 high-priority medical residents again out due to the smoke, all from the wildfires.
So much stress for these families who have to come and go, and then at the same time worry about their properties, and also happening in other parts of the country.
Yeah, Saskatchewan, another part of the prairies, which you know has been hit hard this summer. The hamlet of Patuanak, 425 kilometers north of Saskatoon. People are stranded there from the outside world right now because a wildfire has blocked off the only road in and out. The people inside are said to be safe, but crews are working to get that wildfire under control. Meanwhile, in the village of Beauval, that area is being evacuated and the road in and out is being held off to any traffic in, obviously. It's only out roads from now on out as they try to evacuate that community due to a fire nearby. And then over in British Columbia, the Eisman Creek wildfire continues to be that province's lone wildfire of note, but there are wildfires dotted across the province of British Columbia. This fire north of Lytton, 245 hectares, causing issues for some people. Evacuation orders, evacuation alerts in place as well. And then also near the District of Hope, an interesting story out of there. Rescue crews were called to a cliff in that area to fight a wildfire. They found a man there yelling for help. They were able to extract that man via helicopter and then realized that he was actually wanted on several arrest warrants. 27-year-old Caden Blackwell was rescued and then arrested. He is wanted on charges of assaulting a peace officer, possession of stolen property, obstructing a peace officer, driving while prohibited as well. His charges obviously not proven in court, but an interesting situation in all this wildfire talk.
Absolutely, and it also gives you a sense of what first responders have to deal with while out there fighting those fires. Okay, Mark, thanks so much for this.
Thank you very much.
Well, that's that last little tidbit there was interesting.
Yeah, that's a little. Well, number one, listen. No sympathy in that sense, but in one sense, it's like, it's like, oh, like, okay, I got saved, but do you need to mention that? Number one, but number two, the conundrum in such a way, it's like, it's like I need to be saved because I want to live. But I know if I get saved,
I'm going to jail. I guess his desire to live is stronger than
wanting to get away with
incarceration. Yeah.
Yes, but oh my, yeah. Thinking for two, I mean, and that is the natural, normal human reaction, by the way. Not chastising the man for wanting to live. It's like
I don't. Well, yeah, interesting. He hardly sounded like a hardened criminal. I mean, he's done some criming, but is he enemy number one on the people's list? Subject, public enemy. That's the word I was looking for. Is he public enemy number one? I don't think so.
We got this going on too. Like this, there's this push. I don't like to talk about him very much, but Ben Mulroney apparently now has a show. And the other day he went on this big rant that's all over. I've never retweeted anything from him except for that one the other day because there was a clip of him. It's not him that retweeted it. Somebody else clipped it and retweeted it. And I was listening to just that section. And I mean, nothing about the persona in that clip reminds me of anything for which I know Ben Mulroney before he decided to have the show, right? He was the entertainment e-talk guy.
Right. And he said for years he wanted nothing to do with politics.
Yeah.
He would stay away from it. It was not his thing. Like all of a sudden he's become this right-wing mouthpiece. Do you think he saw a paycheck?
I have to, I'm watching it. Nothing seems authentic. Like Alex Jones, when I watch him, nothing. I know it's all BS, but I truly believe that he's just a ragey kind of person.
Yeah, he's committed. Yeah.
Yeah, that he's just a ragey kind of person. I mean, he's still stupid and he's still acting, and he's still performing, but at his core, I believe that he's a ragey kind of person and not particularly stable. But Ben Mulroney doesn't strike me as someone who's unstable based on his public persona to date. Doesn't strike me as a particularly ragey person either.
No.
So I'm watching this thing and I'm thinking, like, this is really performative. It's bad performance.
Well, it's misinformation too, to begin with.
Yes. And the whole thing there is about something that the Canadian government did where there were some people, and this started under Harper as well, that had criminal records that, for example, they came to Canada and there was a condition if they kept their nose clean for 5 years,
Mhm.
that criminal record would be expunged. I'm guessing here that these are criminal records that they acquired in other countries.
Well, yeah, it's a combination of they acquired in other countries, and some of them go back 25, 30 years, and none of them were assault or
Well, that's exactly it, right?
they were like minor offenses, and some things that would be called an offense in certain countries wouldn't even be looked at in this country.
And in certain countries where people are persecuted,
Right.
you often have charges put on you that are not necessarily actually
Yes.
real. So,
By
but
our legal standards, right?
yes. And I'm watching him going, and it's like some of these people could be terrorists. Shouldn't you want to know? I want to know. And I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, I'm I don't know what country you grew up in,
Yeah.
but I grew up in a country that understands the concept of triage.
Mhm.
Now, what's more likely in an evolved democratic country like Canada that understands the concept of triage? That the very first people that we would be letting in are terrorists and murderers and wife beaters and all of those things, or there would be people who stole a loaf of bread or broke into a car or
Protested their tyrannical dictatorship government.
yeah. What is more likely that the federal government would rush
Yeah.
to say, you know what, if you keep your nose clean for 5 years? And who and which type of people would we first choose to put that level of trust in? Someone who's accused of terrorism and murdering their spouse or something, or someone that may have been at the wrong protest and held the wrong sign up?
Yeah, that's really what it's all about, right? He was
Hmm.
being completely disingenuous and lying by omission. And it's
Yeah.
all for clicks. It's all for clicks. It's all for rage baiting. That's all it is. It's rage baiting.
But the thing is that it's not credible coming from him either,
No,
right?
it's
Had
not.
Gardner Genuis left his spot in cabinet and went there, had Jason Kenney decided he was gonna go that route instead of trying to pretend again that he's some type of centrist like he's doing now, or
He's trying.
like this, I would have more ease believing Jason Kenney doing that shtick
Mhm.
from Ben Mulroney rather than him pretending that all of a sudden he's a centrist.
Well, he is trying to come off as a centrist, but I think it's largely due to the fact that he sees how insane things have gotten in Alberta, and I think he might be beginning to realize that, "Oh, I contributed to that, didn't I?"
I'm not sure if he's realizing it. I mean, like, because at the time, right, he was talking about the lunatics and he was not gonna let them do it, but it's like,
Yes.
dude, it's like your whole, like, 20-year career in Ottawa preceding that was you doing just that.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
I mean, you were the loudmouth bulldog that just said things that weren't really tethered to reality and went for the most inflammatory position possible. Except with immigrants. It's the one thing that Jason Kenney didn't do, in one way because he was the guy that was doing the outreach
Yes.
originally, and apparently was doing a very good job at it until, like, Stephen Harper government decided to torch it all. But, um, yeah, I I I don't know what Ben's up to there, but, there's, this petty there's if you are living in Canada, yes, and you are so poisoned against liberals that you really believe, like, in a country like Canada, the first person we would sign up
Mhm.
to come on into Canada, and if you have a criminal record, hey, no problem, just keep your
Yeah,
nose
that's
clean,
right.
are going to
Yeah.
be terrorists and people who murder other people. I don't know in which country you grew up because it wasn't Canada. I mean, you may have been here all your life, but you didn't grow up in Canada.
I don't know what's going on with him.
You grew up in some alternative reality or something because there's absolutely no way. That would be saying, like, you go to the hospital and it's like, and there are people that are having, like, cardiac arrests, and it's like, "Oh, you sprained your finger, please come in right away." We don't do that. We assess risk.
He just he needs it's rage bait. It's all it is. It's rage bait. He wants to inflame a
Oh
certain
my God.
base of the population, and most of them are, well, rooted. Most of it's rooted in white supremacy and racism.
Yeah.
Whether he realizes this or not, maybe he's not smart enough to recognize that he's being pawned.
But you would think he was, because, I mean, look what his dad did with regard to apartheid.
Yeah, I know. And he was one of the first people on Earth to meet Nelson Mandela after he was released from prison.
I mean,
So what's he like?
and stood up to Thatcher.
Yeah, like bro. Because Thatcher was dead set against any sort of sanctions or embargoes against South Africa.
Like, I mean,
She liked apartheid. So
his own father.
yeah.
He's
I
like,
gotta wonder, is he just not smart enough to know that he's being used here?
man, or times have been tough since ETOC and somebody has a mortgage payment due.
Well, he stepped down after his wife got into hot water over some well, overtly racist shit.
Yeah.
Right. He stepped aside, and I thought at the time he
did a good thing.
His statement was a good thing.
Yeah, we covered it on the show.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, okay, so yeah, this is good. And I don't know. Since that time, he's gone way off the deep end.
Yeah, just don't.
As have his brothers. Like, what is going on?
I know. It's like,
and
man,
do they seem to forget that their mother was an immigrant? Like what? I don't get it.
Yeah, I don't get it either. In the same vein, Mr. Grizzly, yeah, you just put something here in the chat with regard something that Max Fawcett has put up. Maybe you would like to present it?
Happy to do so. Let me just pull this up on the screen here so it's easily viewable. I'm going to show the tweet.
Pierre's doing a similar thing here.
Yeah. So let's bring this tweet up so you can see it, and it's still a tweet. And you can call it an X post if you want.
It's a tweet.
Or a zeet. Some people call it a zeet. I'm like, no, it's a tweet. So Pierre Poilievre, July 4th, Mark Carney said that his industrial carbon tax is needed to make Europe happy. Now Europe is exempting its business from that tax. This massive tax will only kill Canadian jobs and punish Canadian exports. Axe the entire carbon tax for everyone and for good. It's from a story, and he's reposting a story from the National Post. Says, first reading, EU exempting heavy industry from carbon tax as Canada doubles down, from the National Post. But Max Fawcett, who is a friend of the show, and we've had him on before.
Yes.
Either Pierre Poilievre doesn't actually know what's happening here, or he's depending on his followers not bothering to fact check him. Allow me. He's going to post a thread. And he does post a thread. What I'll do is I'll take this off the screen and just read it so that it's easier for people to understand. And where did it go? There it is. Sorry. First of all, no, Europe is not exempting its businesses from the industrial carbon tax. Sorry, I just had to fix that there. Let's start it again. First of all, no, Europe is not exempting its businesses from the industrial carbon tax. It's exempting small importers who tend not to import things like steel, cement, and aluminium. 99% of said emissions will remain covered by the regulation. And then he posts a link to a screenshot from an article posted June 18th, 2025. EU Parliament Council agreed to remove 90% of companies from CBAM, carbon import tax. CBAM is the Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism, the EU's carbon tax on imported goods, including a new threshold to the regulation that will exempt 90% of importers, primarily smaller businesses. Ironically, that's not even what the PC links to is talking about. Instead, it's referring to the change that will see exporters exempted from the carbon tax are made whole on payments they've already made. Now, industrial carbon pricing is confusing, way more than the consumer price. If you want to learn about how it actually works, here's a good explainer. And there's a link to Climate Institute, which has an article in there. And I will post that link in the chat once I am able to copy it and put it in the post here, just so that you have it. Anybody wants to read this article. He goes on to say, this is happening at the same time Europe is continuing to pursue its climate targets for large emitters. The idea that Europe is somehow abandoning its climate policies doesn't wash. It's adjusting them in the face of our Trump-driven reality. And most European businesses aren't about to walk away from their broader strategy here. We won't even talk about China and its trillions of dollars invested in low carbon products here. The goal here for Europe is clear: protect domestic industries from higher carbon competitors while attracting investment in carbon reducing technologies and business. Guess what? That's the same goal that Mark Carney has been articulating for years. Conservatives clearly want to campaign against the industrial carbon tax the way they did the consumer one, but they're going to be squaring off against a much different opponent and much larger segments of the business community who need to play the long game here. Industrial carbon pricing is supported by a wide range of industries in Canada, from steel and cement producers to the organization representing Alberta's industrial heartland. Canadian Industry proposes 5 fixes to industrial carbon pricing, an open letter to provincial ministers of the environment. This was written October 23rd, 2024. Rather than skating to where the puck is so clearly going, Canada's Conservatives seem determined to flip it over the boards. That may play well with their online base, but it's no way to look like a serious alternative to the government. Once again, Pierre Poilievre is lying to you, because that's what he does.
Yep.
And he's trying to rage bait you into thinking the sky is falling when it isn't. It's just another example of the shit gibbon that he is.
So once again, he takes a little kernel of truth that there are people being exempted from something, this, and then basically repackages it and presents it to his base as in, oh, Europe has just abandoned the industrial climate change stuff. We should too. So clearly the strategy here is take something that's happening somewhere else, hope that your base is too stupid to know about, too ignorant to know about it, not ignorant in the negative sense, just you ignore it. You don't know it exists. Too ignorant to know it is lacks the critical thinking skills to say, hey, wait a minute, given everything that we know about Europe to date, how likely is it that they made this radical of a shift all of a sudden? 3, if they had made this radical of a shift all of a sudden, how come it wasn't front page news everywhere? Top story on every newscast everywhere, because that would be a BFD.
Yeah, it's because it's not a BFD, because it's more garbage from Pierre Poilievre. That's why nobody's talking about it.
It's and they're doing this over and over and over again, right? They're doing this with the BC Ferries thing, the shipyard. Like this, there's $1 billion from a Canadian Crown corporation that is going to help finance the loan for them to buy 4 ferries from China. So now the Conservatives are, oh my God, China, I can't believe we're buying stuff from them. Why aren't we giving this to Canadians? Like this. We need to have a committee and investigating this. And they actually have set up a committee, and the committee is looking at this right now. One of the Parliament committees, even though Parliament is not in session, they're getting together and they're looking at these big bad liberals that are giving $1 billion to a Canadian company that's going to go to China because, oh my God, we can't be doing that. We can't be doing that. And, why aren't we giving it to some good Canadian firms? Well, one of the reasons we're not giving it to Canadian firms is because no Canadian firms bid on the contract.
Might have something to do with it.
Yeah. And why did no Canadian firms bid on the contract? Well, Canadian shipyards are currently experiencing a high level of activity with significant order backlogs driven primarily by government contracts under the National Shipbuilding Strategy.
So let me see if I get this correct. Our shipbuilders are maxed out right now.
They're building ships
They're
under our shipbuilding strategy, which is part of our national defense, which Pierre Poilievre says that he loves because he keeps on wrapping himself in the flag and the veterans that he screwed over.
Yes. And BC needs ferries right now. Look, am I happy that they're doing this? Not really. I'd prefer if we could build it in Canada,
or give the contract to someone else that's not China. Yes, but you put out the request for proposals and the people who bid.
That's how it works. You take the best bid, number one. And number two, you also have to remember China is going to become a larger trading partner with Canada in the next few years.
It is.
Whether you like it or not, it's happening. It's happening.
So Major Canadian shipyards such as Seaspan in North Vancouver, Irving Shipbuilding in Halifax, and the Davies Shipbuilding in Lévis, Quebec are operating at or near full capacity through the 2030s.
Yeah.
These yards are primarily engaged in building vessels for the Royal Canadian Navy and the Canadian Coast Guard. For example, Seaspan is constructing ships for the Royal Canadian Navy, Canadian Coast Guard, including non-combat vessels like the Joint Support Ships and Ocean Surveillance vessels, while Irving is building Arctic and offshore patrol vessels and river-class destroyers. So, um, for the bid,
Mhm.
specifically, shipyards like Seaspan cited existing commitments to federal contracts and the inability to compete with lower cost foreign yards. China's CMI Well High, for example, the company that got the contract, due to high labor and regulatory costs in Canada. So they're fully committed and they couldn't compete on building ferries.
Mhm.
Okay. Davie Shipyard is not only busy with domestic orders, but it's also expanding.
So let me
There's
see
an
if I
expansion project going on right now.
let me see if I get this correct though. So we're getting these ships, these ferries, at a reduced rate. Yes, hello, Lola. By buying them from China versus China, who bid on the project, right? Versus our shipyards that are running at max capacity into the 2030s.
Yes.
And it would have been more expensive if I'm going to build another shipyard just to build a couple of ferries,
Yes.
and then it's just empty and idle for a decade.
Well, I mean, you would hope that then, they would contract out to try and build other ferries from around the world.
Probably, yes.
But the thing is that Pierre Poilievre is mad that the government of British Columbia did what it needed to do so that it can get ferries on the schedule that allows life
Mhm.
to happen in
Yeah.
British Columbia. And, nobody in the media is actually like telling him, all the shipyards are built like this. Like, what's your counter proposal then? So your counter proposal is either that we build an entirely new shipyard first, which again, there needs to be design and contract proposal, an RFP and a bidding process, and then the thing actually has to be built before we could actually start building ferries, which would mean, or we force a Canadian company to bid on it, and then they can't start the work until 2031 ish. And what is British Columbia supposed to do in the meantime? And what
Mhm.
happens to the economy in the meantime? These are very inconvenient questions that for some reason are not being put to Pierre and the Conservatives while they rage bait. Oh my God, isn't it terrible that this development business bank that Canada created that gives money to Canadian companies so they can buy stuff from China.
Yeah.
Ah, uh, I keep on saying it. This is unserious commentary from an unserious man
Mhm.
and an unserious party. There's always a damn counterfactual, and he's never asked about it. Okay, well, what would you do then?
He doesn't
Like,
have a
oh, well, I
solution.
certainly wouldn't give a contract to China. Yeah, I didn't say what you wouldn't do. What would you do
Yeah.
then? How would you get ferries to British Columbia on timeline X?
Well, you remember that the official opposition's job is to oppose and propose. They oppose everything. They propose nothing.
But this is mindlessly opposing.
Well, then
All of this
he's not even
information,
a politician. He's a private citizen.
yeah, all of this information is public.
Yes.
Again, we are two schlubs, and we know the shipyards are full. What's his damn excuse?
Oh, he just likes to lie for the sake of rage baiting people
And just
into hating the Carney government because, we can't have well, it's the people who immediately switched their flags from F. Trudeau to F. Carney
yes,
when
because
Carney had been in the job for 2 minutes.
oh my God, what a terrible track record.
Yeah.
Boy, After 2 whole minutes, yeah, you just screwed the country up worse than Trudeau ever did.
It's like it's their entire identity with these folks. I'm like, really? You do realize that Mark Carney has more in common with Joe Clark progressive conservatism than he does with Justin Trudeau liberalism. I mean,
they're not happy unless they're miserable.
This is the thing. I need to step away for just a minute to take care of a couple of things. I will be back shortly. Apologies. Something needs to be dealt with here, and I'll be back shortly.
All right. So, and the Conservatives are having other troubles of their own, kits and cubs, by the way. If you hadn't heard, there is a whole meeting in the GTA that took place the other day to choose members for the riding council in Mississauga, Erin Mills, and the party's national council. They want the party's national council to annul the results of the June 23rd AGM there because a regional organizer decided on their own that they were going to disqualify an entire slate of board of director candidates on an unfounded technicality. They basically said there's this appendix here that needs to be signed by everyone, and the 30 members on this slate did not sign it, so they're disqualified. The problem is that the manner in which that appendix is written seems to indicate that it's something that would be signed after people were elected. And if you look at the wording itself, when people who are asking about it say, in the past, how's this worked like this? Yeah, we've always signed this after. And so, yeah, this director or this operative decided, well, yeah, I'm arbitrarily deciding that I wanted this signed before the slates were presented. You guys didn't do it. So all 30 of you are eliminated. And the 11 of you who are on the opposing slate, well, congratulations. Now, the person, if it was so important that these things be signed, could have just handed the documents to the slate of 30 candidates and have them sign that appendix before the vote took place to make sure that the paperwork was in order and then proceed to the vote. But no, they decided that they were going to override the will of everyone and just eliminate the slate of candidates. So you know that things are going well in your party when. So the infighting there in that party, it's not necessarily bubbling up to the surface in mainstream news. I had to get that from the Hill Times, which is, the rag of record for what goes on Parliament Hill and behind the scenes. So lots of stuff in the Hill Times doesn't make it to the big news. But if you want to know what's going on and you look in there, you find out what's going on underground. There's not happiness in that party in any way, shape, or form. So, yeah. Not a good situation overall. Moving on, kits and cubs, to other conservatives that are behaving in really weird ways. If you remember, a couple of weeks ago, we talked about Doug Ford because the gentleman, and I use the term loosely here, went way out of his I have no idea why that sound started. Sorry, kits and cubs. Went way out of his way to insult First Nations and had to issue a very, very, very contrite apology with the First Nations there because they were going to have a meeting. And the chiefs were there. And the very day after, he had to do this. And there was a big public moment. And we'll just give you a little reminder of the flavor of that moment. So in case you had missed the episode, but let's just put that up for you. And let's go down memory lane a little bit here.
We had a very productive meeting, and Grand Chief, thank you so much for coming. And what I said when I went in there, and I'm sincere about this, when I go out, and yesterday, I get pretty passionate. And I just want to say I sincerely apologize for my words, not only if it hurt all the chiefs in that room, but all First Nations. We're going to work together. We're going to get through this, and we're going to have a great collaboration. And as I said before, I'll always respect treaty rights, and I'll always respect duty to consult. Because without First Nations, we can't get the critical minerals out of the ground. We can't have the energy that we need, that the whole world wants. So again, Megwitch, appreciate everything. We had a very...
Okay. So, Doug Ford was sincerely, in Skippy air quotes, sincerely apologized for his offensive remarks. He's committed to always respect treaty rights, and it realizes that without First Nations, all that development he wants to do in the Ring of Fire, development, that word that makes his nipples hard, like this, can't happen, right? And you remember me sitting there going, I'll believe that when that lasts.
Yeah.
Well, it seems that over the course of the weekend, he, and with an assist from Danielle Smith, of course, who is allegedly part Cherokee on her great-great-grandmother's side once, and took great offense that anybody would suggest that she would in any way double-cross her people. Her people, in Skippy air quotes, because a lot of people went back and did a little genealogy, and can't seem to find any trace of
Isn't
Cherokee.
she isn't she Ukrainian?
That too,
Yeah.
apparently, and not sure if there's any trace of that either. Just saying. Hasn't been convincingly established, let's put it that way, that there's that either. So yes, and a lot of people started referring to her as a pretendian as a result of those
Yes.
claims. So, well, that the other day, both of them came out and had something. They made an interesting move, and this here proves yet again that I'm going to say big crocodile tears, even though he wasn't crying, but doing the Doug Ford. Oh, gee, folks, I'm so sorry, because Doug Ford does this thing because he has a survival instinct where he does something like really, really stupid or racist or dumb or whatnot like this, and then pulls back like this and then adjusts, right? And everybody goes, oh, well, he's just trying his best, and like he admitted he was wrong, and they give him a cookie for that. But the problem is that the pulling back never holds. It's just a retreat so he can regroup and try again, as we saw with the green belt, for example. Right? We know what a Doug Ford promise and apology is worth now, because we've seen him pull this act a few times. Well, according to our friends at iPolitics, and this was on Friday, I believe. Meanwhile, the federal minister of Indigenous Services says her government plans to reintroduce legislation to ensure First Nations rights to clean drinking water, despite calls from Alberta and Ontario for it to scrap the bill altogether. The two provincial environmental ministers sent a letter to their federal counterpart this week calling on Prime Minister Mark Carney's government to abandon legislation they see as undermining competitiveness and delaying project development. Again, this is a plan to reintroduce legislation to ensure First Nations rights to clean drinking water.
Yeah.
And the environment ministers are basically sending a letter saying, well, you can't do that because that will undermine our competitiveness and delay project development, because denying First Nations access to drinking water also won't delay project development, right? They're just going to sit by and decide, okay, fine. You've decided that for us. I guess we're just going to lie back and take it.
Well, that's, you do what I tell you to. It's basically what it boils down to.
Yeah. So just if you need any reminder that a Premier Porky Pig apology is merely serving him to get him through the next uncomfortable nanosecond, there's your proof here. Because nothing says, I'm sincerely sorry, like following it up weeks later with, yeah, I'm sincerely sorry, but we also can't have it be law to give you clean drinking water. I mean, that would undermine competitiveness and delay project development.
Undermine competitiveness is a nice way of saying my rich friends are getting pissed at me because they can't exploit things for profit.
Or as cheap
Really,
as
it's
possible.
doublespeak.
Right. Prime Minister Mark Carney has made a commitment to do things differently, Alberta's Environment Minister Rebecca Schultz and her Ontario counterpart Todd McCarthy wrote in a June 30th letter to Federal Environment Minister Julie DeBrusen. Quote, we are hopeful that this new federal government will move away from policies and legislation that undermine competitiveness, delay project development, and disproportionately harm specific provinces and territories without any quantifiable benefits to the natural environment. Like, for example, having clean drinking water and protected fresh waterways.
I mean,
no quantifiable benefits to the natural environment. Really, because protecting fresh waterways from people who fish and eat from what comes out of the fresh waterways or just drink the water is not a quantifiable benefit. If you're indigenous and on reserve, it would appear, according to the environment ministers of Alberta and Ontario, sanctioned by their premiers. We are supposed to be dealing nation to nation, but drinking water and freshwater sources on First Nations are a sacrifice that Ford and Smith are clearly willing and eager to make.
No, it doesn't affect them negatively. So why would they care?
Yes, because, of course, they insist, like the cowards that they are, that it is Prime Minister Carney that inserts the knife, lifts it, and gives it a twist. And you will notice that these are all the same claims, right? It's like, you got to repeal the no tanker ban, no tanker law, so that we can be competitive, as there are tankers leaving Kitimat. One's left. There's another one that came in on around the 6th to get filled. There's another one that came from somewhere else that's going to be scheduled to be filled on the 12th. But there are no tankers, and you got to remove the no pipelines law. Well, there was actually one pipeline built under that apparently no pipelines law, and there's like all these projects bids going around for more type of pipelines, and people are talking about another LNG pipeline. People are even talking about an oil pipeline. People are talking about joining a gas pipeline that stops in the Quebec region and connecting it to the east. So there's lots of talks about pipelines, but apparently there's a no pipeline law. You have to repeal the EV car mandates. You got to repeal the industrial carbon tax. You got to repeal all these things that you need. The government of Canada is needing to repeal, according to the government of Alberta. Now getting an assist from the government of Ontario. One of the bills they singled out is Bill C-61, legislation introduced in the last parliament that sought to ensure First Nations have access to clean drinking water and can protect fresh water sources on their territories. Now, it is no surprise to me to see Danielle Smith involved in this, because she's nothing but an ambulatory meat sack devoid of human empathy.
Basically.
Yes, But Ford's flip-flop is him living down to expectations based on his past behavior. So it should shock nobody that action has already started. According to the Star, Ontario's First Nations have slowed down traffic on the Trans-Canada Highway recently over mining laws. I wonder why they felt the need to do that.
Mm. Well,
Maybe they know Doug Ford. Maybe they knew his apology meant nothing. Well, Doug Ford sure as hell confirmed it by making that statement. But yes, on July 4th, the Toronto Star reported that in Northern Ontario First Nation has completed a 4-day demonstration that slowed down traffic on the Trans-Canada Highway as it protests fast-tracked federal and provincial legislation designed to speed up mining and development. Netmizigamig Nishnabeg Chief Louis Kwisiwa said several dozens members of his community, along with several other First Nations leaders, protested along Highway 17 to show their disapproval of federal Bill C5 and the provincial B5. Quote, "We feel like our rights are being violated and we're not being properly consulted. We don't really feel respected by the bill and the community is upset, to say the least. Leadership is upset and we're not going to stand by and allow our rights to be trampled on." Understandably.
mm,
But dozens of First Nations protested at both Queen's Park and Parliament Hill in the past 2 months over the legislation that they say tramples their rights and ignores their concerns. They've warned of blockades of highways, railways, and mines should the governments not reverse course and work with them. Netmizigamig Nishnakabeg, known in English as Pic-Mobert First Nation, is situated north of Lake Superior near the Trans-Canada Highway and a freight railway. But its chief stopped short of threatening a blockade. Quote, "It's not a threat, it's just the obvious. This is where we're located. It's obviously right there, and I don't know what will come of it. But we just need to be at the negotiating table, and we're trying to do things in a good way because we don't want to go down those blockade routes." So they're telling us, like, right now we're just protesting by the highway because we don't want a blockade, but it's almost like they're, when Doug Ford says, don't make
yeah.
us blockade. This is a language Doug Ford should understand.
Perfectly well. I mean, my goodness, it's the language he speaks, right?
Yeah.
I'm not talking English. I'm
Yes.
talking double speak.
Yeah. We have 3 mining operations within our traditional territory, so we're not against it. There are already 3 operating. We just need to be properly consulted. We need to be at the negotiation table. We have families to feed. We have a community to take care of, and we want to be part of the negotiations and to respect our environment and to respect our children and to respect our authority as stewards of the land. Now, First Nations have begun mobilizing across Ontario in response to the passage of both bills. Last week, Attawapiskat First Nation and Niskatanga First Nation began setting up a quasi-permanent encampment near a proposed road and bridge site to the Ring of Fire. That followed one family's 400-kilometer journey up the Attawapiskat River by canoe to reassert First Nations' presence near a mining exploration site in the Ring of Fire. We showed you that story. A young man, can't remember his last name off the top of my head, but his first name Geronimo, he was a young man who convinced his parents that no, we need to do this. Right? The kids are leading the way in this case because they know what's going on. They know what time it is. Another group from Grassy Narrows First Nation remains camped out in the park near the Ontario Legislature, repealed with Kill Bill 5 signs. So, there shouldn't be any surprise that First Nations are starting to mobilize. Now, according to the Canadian press here, right, when it says that the federal Indigenous minister wants to plan to reintroduce that legislation, and then again, right, talking about this letter, the bill C-61 itself that they're talking about, that they're hoping will be repealed. That bill faced a lengthy committee process but was not passed into law before Parliament was prorogued. In an emailed statement, a spokesperson for Indigenous Services Minister Mandy Gulmasti said everyone in Canada should have access to clean water. Quote, that's why our new government has committed to introduce and pass legislation that affirms First Nations have a human right to clean drinking water. To be clear, we intend to introduce this legislation this fall to advance this important commitment. Provinces, territories, and the federal government have a shared responsibility of reconciliation with Indigenous peoples. We call on all parliamentarians, provinces, and territories to support this critical legislation to ensure that First Nations have access to clean drinking water. Indigenous Services Canada shows 37 long-term drinking water advisories are still in place across the country, most of them in Ontario. So, yeah, the 37 hardest cases to solve, most of them are in Ontario, and the Premier of Ontario, through the Environment Minister, is saying, "Ugh, but do we really have to make sure that these people with whom I just said I can't get anything done without, and to whom I just said I sincerely apologize, absolutely have to have clean drinking water and fresh waterways?"
Well, you summed it up pretty nicely there, because that's exactly what took place. And I mean, there's subtleties there. You need to read between the lines a little bit, and you need to pay attention. If you're just, and remember, he's governing by headlines, right? He'll get his news clip, he'll get his clickable viral video, and people will think, oh, Doug's doing the right thing again. No, he's not. He's not. He's stabbing you in the back while he's shaking your hand. Making a deal in the front and stabbing you in the back. This is what he does. It's who he is. It's who he's always been. He doesn't care about you. But his billionaire donors, oh, he cares about them. Let's make sure they can get more money by getting projects rammed through. I don't care who it harms. These projects will benefit the economy. You know, the thing is, when you don't have drinking water, or waters that are navigable, or waters that
you can fish out of and eat what comes out of it,
then you don't have people. And if you don't have people, you don't have customers. If you don't have customers, you don't have a business. They fail to see the bigger picture here, because all they see is dollar signs and nothing else. And there's no human beings attached to those dollar signs. None. They don't see human beings as people. They see us as a means to an end of production. Get the money from the people. That's it. That's all they care about.
Yeah.
I have a very whiny dog right here. I'm sure you can hear her in the mic.
I hear her. You have a NDP leader, Merritt Stiles, asking out loud, why is Ford government opposing clean drinking water for First Nations? First Nations in Ontario have been under boil water advisories for decades. In fact, Ontario has the most number of drinking water advisories in Canada. Clean drinking water is a right, not a luxury. And then Arlene King, who's, I don't know who this person is, but through Twitter, responds, because his government knows what mining does to water.
Mm-hmm.
You have another person here going, the government has no obligation to provide First Nations with clean drinking water. You might be wrong about that. According to APTN News, that's Aboriginal People's Television News, and we like to go to them. This is Leanne Sanders here. And their take on it here is that Bill C-61 would ensure, quote, that First Nations have reliable access to a sufficient, adequate, and safe quantity and quality of drinking water, and reliable access to effective treatment and disposal of wastewater to assist First Nations in achieving the highest attainable standard of health, safety, and well-being. It also affirms the inherent right of First Nations to self-government, which includes jurisdiction in relation to water, source water, drinking water, wastewater, and related infrastructure on, in, and under First Nations lands in relation to water, source, and water in protection zones. The bill was being examined in the Senate when former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau prorogued the House of Commons on January 6th, killing any legislation that hadn't passed, including C-61, so that's why they want to reintroduce it. The letter from Schultz and McCarthy doesn't explain how the First Nations Safe Drinking Water Law would affect provincial projects and trample on their jurisdiction. And that's another thing that they do. Right? It's like, you can't do this. It's going to so terribly affect our ability to do this. Okay, how? And in which ways, specifically? It just will. Yeah. Okay. So, since we're doing this, um, let us, for those who do not recognize him, here's Rebecca Schultz and Mr. Todd
Mm.
McCarthy, the environment ministers from Alberta and Ontario. Just so you can get a long look at people that think that there are certain people in this country. Why does their nation need drinking water? Our province, within it lives in another nation, deserves it so much more. We need it more than they do. Can't we just cast them aside? I see you've had a personal experience.
And just- no, no,
Uh,
no.
Anyway, yeah, I'm I am really confounded by this type of attitude. According to Indigenous Service Canada, as of May 30th, there are 37 long-term drinking water advisories remaining in effect for 35 First Nation communities across Canada. There has been one that has been lifted very, very recently, I think, since this article, which is good news. But yeah, talking about the Nestanga First Nation in Northern Ontario, for example, they've been on a boil water advisory for nearly 31 years.
That's a long time.
But it's still not a priority, according to these two and their premiers, that this be done. APTN News reached out to Ontario to ask about the letter. Thanks for reaching out, the letter stands as a response, said Alexandra Chaban, press secretary in McCarthy's office. Wow. Okay. In a statement released on World Water Day in March, the chiefs of Ontario urged any new government to quickly enact the bill. Quote, the legislation is not perfect, but it was a significant step in the right direction. Our people have not had a real voice when it comes to our water. This could have helped change that. It took years and years of advocacy from dozens of people to get it this far, and it would be unconscionable to let it die like this, said Grand Council Chief Linda DeBasigi. And if that name sounds familiar, the lady in the clip to whom Doug Ford was apologizing is her.
Mm.
To her face, shook her hand, and then a couple weeks later did this. And she was very gracious, if you remember,
Mhm.
accepting the apology as sincere. Well, seems she might not. She seems that she could have made another decision on that day, and it wouldn't have been wrong. How can we expect our nations to grow and thrive if they don't have the basic building blocks of life? It's 2025. It's insanity that there are different rules for us and everyone else. The chiefs of Ontario said the Ontario region still has the most long-term boil water advisories in the country. Quote, Canada has bound itself to the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People. Article 25 states that Indigenous peoples have the right to maintain and strengthen their unique relationships with their traditional territories and waters while upholding their responsibilities to future generations, said Temagami First Nation Chief Shelley Moore Frappier. Yet here we are having to push Canada to ensure we have the means to ensure safe drinking water in our communities. There are no excuses. Safe drinking water is a human right, full stop.
Yes.
Calling on the next government to finish the job. In December, the Assembly of First Nations had encouraged the Senate to fast track the bill before Parliament rose for the holiday break, but that didn't happen, of course. The organization, which represents more than 600 First Nations, has also encouraged the Carney government to reintroduce the bill in Parliament, where it seems to have support from all parties. In early June, APTN reached out to Indigenous Services Canada to see if the Carney government would revive Bill C-61. A spokesperson said a discussion was ongoing in the department on whether it would be reintroduced before Parliament went on its summer break. In the end, nothing was tabled by the government. Schultz and McCarthy, the two environment ministers, are also asking for discussions around specific timelines and next steps for repealing the Impact Assessment Act, Physical Activities Regulations, Clean Electricity Regulations, Greenhouse Gas Polluting Pricing Act, and associated regulations. All of those apparently are undermining competitiveness. The provinces also hope to discuss amending the Species at Risk Act to respect Canada's constitutional jurisdictions and suspending the proposed oil and gas emissions cap, something Alberta Premier Danielle Smith has long been calling for. It seems here that they're it's like, listen, the job is hard. Yeah. Could you make it easier for us to do the job of screwing people over? It's just so hard. There are
Mm,
rules and stuff. We have to meet criteria. Can we just eliminate those? We're just too
you know,
lazy to do the hard work of doing it the right way. Ugh. Mm.
it's what it always boils down to, right?
Enough talk. It's time for action from this federal government. We look forward to discussing how to scrap these ineffective and ideological federal policies and replace them with common sense rules that create jobs, attract investment, and protect the environment at the same time. And
Common
yeah,
sense.
protect environment at the same time as we're asking to not ensure that a fellow nation without which we can do the work actually has drinking water.
Yeah. Well, I gotta go in a second here because Miss is pretty excited and you can hear her. Just before I leave, um, I noticed a wedding band on your hand.
Oh, yeah, no. I just there's no wedding band.
Oh, no, that isn't where I was going. I just
Oh,
noticed it and I thought I'd make a comment. So
yes.
just before I go, because I do have to take off because she's really
Yes.
really harping on me. Just before I go, the thing I want to add to this is that look, money is the root of all evil, as evidenced by what is taking place. It's clear it's the root of all evil. And let's take that one step further. I'm going to share a very short video clip. It's 2.5 minutes. And it plays right into how money is the root of all evil.
He is 91 years old, and he's being evicted from his rental unit in Little Italy. As Michelle Mackey tells us, after 20 years in his home, tonight, this man will be sleeping in a shelter.
You have to go, you have to go, you have to go, you have to go.
That's what Ventulo says the sheriff's office told him on Friday when they arrived at his unit, ordering him to leave by Monday. The one-bedroom apartment on Clinton Street is owned by George DeMello and his father, Josa DeMello, according to court documents. Ventulo tried to introduce us.
George, can we quickly interview you, sir? We'd love to hear your side of the story.
He denied our request. But the court documents show that an eviction order from last year was upheld on appeal in May so that DeMello could move into the unit to be close to his father, who has dementia and relies upon him for emotional, financial, and other support. Ventulo believes that the eviction is retaliation for his complaint about bed bugs.
Are
those bed bugs?
Look on there, what all about the box? They got up mouse over here. Look on there. And I live 2.5 years, they took my blood and they said to me, you have to go.
He says he's also poured thousands of dollars of his own money into repairs.
I have to take the floor off and fix with cement.
Ventulo, who says he suffers from depression, is a staple in Little Italy, known by many in the community.
That's crazy. He's an elderly man. Like, where's he going to go?
City Councillor Diane Sachs says there is a temporary solution.
Well, we worked hard with the city staff to make sure that there is going to be a bed for him tonight in a shelter.
While Ventulo's situation is terrible, Sachs says it's not unique.
The Ford government, with the way they've structured rent control, gives landlords a very powerful incentive to get rid of long-standing tenants by any means, fair or foul, because they could jack up the rent.
Yep. We reached out to the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing, but did not hear back in time for this broadcast. Landlords in Ontario must follow a specific legal process to evict a tenant and can only do so for specific reasons, such as non-payment of rent and for the landlord's own use of the property, as is the case claimed here. Councillor Sachs says her team is working on finding Ventulo more permanent housing in this neighborhood so he can still be close to the medical facilities he frequents and remain in the community where he's cultivated relationships for 2 decades. In Little Italy, Michelle Mackey, City News.
So, money is the root of all evil.
Jeez.
Because they want to get him out so they can jack the rent, right? That's what it boils down to. He's been there 20 years, rent controlled. So they get him out. They'll slap a coat of paint on the wall, say, I'm moving in. And then 6 months later, somebody else will move in and pay, what, $4,000 a month? $3,000, $4,000, and put money in their pockets? Money is the root of all evil. However, it doesn't have to be.
No.
It doesn't have to be. We can use money to do good things.
Yes.
This is why we pay taxes, so we can use money to do good things.
Yes.
Now we need to apply those taxes to helping the people who need the most help. This gentleman needs our help.
Yes.
Dan just said he knows here. I'm going to put it on the screen. Says, I know the public here. I guarantee this man will never see a shelter. Guaranteed. Someone took him in or got him an apartment. And again, 20 years he's lived there. He's a staple of that neighborhood. He's 91 years old. Why are we evicting nonagenarians?
Yep.
What the hell is going on with us as a people?
I know.
We have lost our humanity when we do this.
Like this, and not just like 91 when people like think 91. 91 clearly has all his mind.
Yes.
Clearly physically active. I mean, this guy looks good.
He looks good for 91. I mean, does he want to go back to work at 91? Christ, no. Let the man live out his remaining years in peace.
In his community where he has his friends and where he knows everything. And
this is Doug Ford who put this together. Landlords have power to evict long-term tenants so that they can jack the rent. Which brings it back to my situation, which I can imagine I will face at some point in time in the future. I've been here 15 years. I have no intention of leaving. I'm 57 years old. I've been here for this is the longest I've ever lived in a single dwelling in my life.
Well, yeah, especially as a military brat, right?
Right. This is my home. I have no intention of leaving. Now, I know they would triple the rent if somebody moved into my space. Triple it. I know they want to do that. There are a bunch of tenants in this building. We are forming an organization with other tenants in other buildings in the neighborhood. A union, if you will, to make sure our rights are protected and enshrined in, well, I don't know if I could say law, but we definitely need to fight for our rights because there are a bunch of rent evictions taking place in this neighborhood right now. I don't know if it's happened in this building. I don't believe it has. Doesn't mean it won't.
Mm-hmm.
Again, money is the root of all evil, but it doesn't have to be.
Yeah.
This is why we need a UBI.
That type of networking is stuff that's going to be, when people are talking about resisting and resistance, how do you do that? It's by building those community networks like that. The way that you're doing.
Yeah. Yeah. We've got an organization that's being built from the ground up with concerned tenants who have lived in this building for, some have been here for 30 years. So you've been here 30 years in a rent-controlled building. Your rent is reasonable, as you know, right now. So I will be starting a new job soon. I don't have a start date yet. If I had to move into another dwelling in this unit and suddenly my rent's tripled, I'd be able to afford it, but it would really, really seriously hamper my ability to get some debts paid and save money. I would be able to afford it, but it would be difficult. I want to stay where I am because I've built a life here. I'm part of the community. I know people here. I've been here for 15 years in this community. I'm very comfortable. I'm very happy here. And my rent is affordable. Look, I can afford it on the current meager income that I have. It isn't easy. It is not easy, but I can afford it. But if I have to move, yeah, I'm screwed. So I have no intention of ever leaving here. None. None. Yeah. And if I start my new job soon and I can, I can start to save some money. I can start to pay off my debts. I don't have a lot of debts, but I did run up a few over the last year because when you have almost no income, you do what you got to do to keep ahead.
Yeah.
Okay, I really got to go. You can hear my
She's
dog.
very talkative this
Yeah.
morning.
Oh, yeah. She's like, Daddy, what's going on? We've been getting up. And you know what it was? Because I was gone for a week, and my friend who was taking care of her was taking her out earlier than I normally do. So now
Okay.
that's how it goes. So, okay, I do have to go, folks. Thanks for tuning in. We appreciate you. Thanks for surfing on in. Please do us all a favor if you could, and share the channel with as many people as possible, because we are trying to grow this community, this network that we're building here, and keep Canadians informed. And I know that it's difficult to stay on top of things sometimes, but that's just how it is. So we try and stay on top of things for you and give you the news that I'm sorry, I'm going to have to go. My apologies.
Stop stretching, Daddy. Stop stretching.
Yeah, exactly. All right. I'll see you later. Take care.
Oh, man. Man. All right. Kits and cups. So, yeah. Doug Ford. What can you say? And what was really interesting is that Doug Ford and Danielle Smith met, because he was out at the Stampede, to sign some of those MOUs between the provinces, right? Because the feds did all that they needed to do to ensure that we have one economy. Right, they removed their barriers, but the rest depends on the provinces, and that's where things get a little sticky, right? Because some of these barriers mean significant, represent significant dollars to the provinces. So those ones, not all the provincial barriers have been removed by July 1st, but clearly there's a move to try and remove as many of those as possible, if not all of them by then. But that is more a provincial jurisdiction. In that case, the federal government could try to encourage or incentivize or anything of the sort. But yeah, the rest is up to the provinces to do. And so they signed whatever memorandums of understanding that they had together in order to achieve all of that. But it was a statement that Doug Ford made afterwards that kind of caught my attention, because Doug Ford, again, I'm old enough to remember a time when Doug Ford was doing the whole Captain Canada thing. And that kind of stopped. I had written the quote down, but I cannot seem to locate it at the moment, unfortunately. But it kind of went like, and the federal government really needs to start showing some respect to Alberta and to the West, Alberta and Saskatchewan especially, because, gee, for the last 10 years under Trudeau, oh my God, it's been terrible. So Doug Ford is now, there we go. For far too long, for 10 years under Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, the West was treated terribly, Saskatchewan and Alberta, and we've got to start showing respect. Ottawa has to start showing respect to the great folks in the West, especially Saskatchewan and Alberta. So the Doug Ford typical empty platitude type thing, hey folks, and those are great folks over there, and we need to start showing them respect because we haven't been doing it for far too long. Again, no specific examples of that lack of respect, and no specific examples of what showing it respect would be like. Just the West was treated terribly. I remember a couple months ago when Doug Ford was tearing a strip over off Danielle Smith for not being a team player on the whole Team Canada stuff when he was still running for the election. Put the cap on, the Canada's not for sale cap. That didn't have written underneath it, but I am. Oh, did I say that out loud? I'm so sorry. But now all of a sudden it's, yeah, the West is right. It's been disrespected for far too long, especially under that terrible Trudeau person. Oh my God. Pierre, do you hear that? I hope you hear that from Battle River Crowfoot, because it sounds like Doug Ford's coming for your job. cozying up to Danny, fighting drinking water and fresh waterways for indigenous people, suddenly bellying up to the mic and claiming that the West has been disrespected for 10 years. He's never said anything like that before. That's such a terrible thing. Sounds to me that he's pandering to the same vote base that you've been pandering all of a sudden. And we know that Doug Ford doesn't particularly like you. We know that Corey Tanaik, his communications guy, doesn't particularly like you either. And now it seems that they are adopting some of that Western populism rhetoric that Danielle Smith probably wrote and slid in his pocket and said, here, if you want this MOU, read this. Say this out loud. So yeah, Doug Ford strategically positioning himself there. Not particularly good, I'm just going to say. But hey, because when conservatives are fighting amongst each other, I don't think that that's necessarily a bad thing. So there you go. Since we were talking about wildfires a little earlier, there's with wildfires, you also talk drought, because drought conditions create conditions that are fabulous for more wildfires. It seems that in Saskatchewan, there are several municipalities in rural Saskatchewan that have declared a state of emergency as a result of drought conditions. They are unable to make feed for their livestock. In 6 Mile Ranch, there's only been rain twice this year, according to some people living there. And some farmers have been going 10 feet deep into the ground for water and not finding anything. Certain pastures that have produced up to 500 hay bales for winter feed have produced nothing so far this year. There's a Corina Gibson, who's a ranch owner in 6 Mile Ranch, has stated, this spring has been the worst drought that we've lived through in our 33 years. Nothing even started. Nothing grew. We're talking hundreds of thousands, if not closer to 1 million, for us to replace all of that feed that we would normally produce ourselves. So, yeah. Several local communities have declared states of emergency, and the Saskatchewan government has lowered the threshold to file a crop insurance claim. And that's the most information that we have on that at the time. Hopefully, we'll have more for you in the coming days on that situation. But yes, drought conditions in Saskatchewan are getting particularly bad here. There's also talk about trade going on, and there's some dual stories here, or dual tracks. The first one is that with regards to Canada, when we're talking about Bill C-5 and those major areas, not major areas, but projects of national importance that they are looking to pursue and make a short list to then see whether or not they can have the proponents and whatnot for the projects to go through. There's a lot of articles kind of stating that, well, we're starting to get a better sense of which projects will be approved, and they're not necessarily specific projects, but 5 major areas of projects that are being considered here. So specific projects have not been identified, but the 5 sort of buckets in which you can probably imagine which projects would come out of them are the Western and Arctic corridor, which is that corridor that's looking to link Hudson's Bay and James Bay to the Pacific through pipelines and roads and everything like that for that type of trade there. The Eastern Energy Partnership, which is several projects that had been considered and proposed before, all sort of joined together with some new elements to try to create, some greater and more reliable electricity generation in a quantity that could allow some to be exported not only to the United States but to Europe as well. The critical minerals pathways, the next stage of nuclear, and export diversification infrastructure. So those seem to be the 5 main areas where if something is going to happen, they would happen in those ones specifically. So according to an article that was brought to us by iPolitics there. But I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that it was in the financial post that the article was published. So yeah, these are 5 main areas that projects will come through. Now, the Eastern Energy Partnerships is the one that I think is one of the better ones and that could have great benefit here. According to the Financial Post, what was initially pitched as a way to reduce the reliance of some Atlantic provinces on coal and energy imports from the US, something exacerbated by the shutdown of Nova Scotia's offshore natural gas production in 2018, has blossomed into bigger plans with the prospect of tapping federal money and cutting red tape to draw private investment. Leaders in Atlantic Canada now hope Ottawa's nation-building push will galvanize efforts to link power infrastructure across the region and country, enabling new generation projects without enough capacity to export excess electricity to other Canadian provinces and New England states at a profit. The pitch from the Atlantic provinces under the Eastern Energy Partnership has an estimated initial cost of $8 billion, so relatively inexpensive for what it is that it can generate in terms of economic activity. And it has the support of New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, and Prince Edward Island, according to the Atlantica Centre for Energy, a nonprofit organization that advocates for energy opportunities in the region. Some of the proposals being pitched, which span electricity, nuclear, and natural gas, also Quebec, but whether that province will be on board remains to be seen, said Larry Hughes, a professor of electrical and computer engineering at Dalhousie University, who is closely following developments. Among the proposals is Nova Scotia's Wind West initiative, which would boost development of offshore wind turbines to 66 gigawatts of capacity within 10 years, or 13 times the previous goal for 2030. A cross-country cable is envisioned to carry excess electricity to other markets, and the undertaking would require government and private funding. Nova Scotia Premier Tim Houston said the project could supply 27% of Canada's electricity needs. New Brunswick Premier Susan Holt has endorsed the idea that her province could become an electricity hub for transmission of energy across Canada and into the U.S., including hydro from Newfoundland and Labrador. That's the Churchill Falls deals and all the other deals that are projects that are up there that have been made possible as a result of that deal. A separate New Brunswick proposal would give Atlantic provinces access to natural gas from Western Canada through the extension of a pipeline that currently terminates in Quebec City. If Quebec were to allow it, the natural gas pipeline could be extended into New Brunswick, Hughes said. From the port of Belledune in northern New Brunswick, it could be further extended to Fredericton and connect with the existing pipeline system, Michel Robichaud, president of the Atlantica Centre for Energy, said. Quote, in some ways, the Eastern Energy Partnership is a new idea. In other ways, it's revisiting old plans and incorporating existing ones, she said. Robichaud said that beyond the proposed offshore wind energy in Nova Scotia, new nuclear power from New Brunswick, and hydro from Newfoundland and Labrador, the growth potential of onshore wind has already been identified in all 4 Atlantic provinces. Quote, all of the Atlantic provinces require additional generation, and there is opportunity in exporting energy, whether it's through transmission lines or as hydrogen, ammonia, or other clean fuels, she said. Eastern premiers are also hoping that Canada's renewed interest in strengthening ties with the European Union could facilitate the build-out of a hydrogen sector, leveraging the region's clean electricity to produce green hydrogen, which can then be converted into ammonia for long-distance shipping to markets such as Germany. Quote, it's been pretty obvious that the EU is a partner that we're looking to get closer to, so if there's a way that we can work on making sure that our Atlantic provinces are well equipped to send resources to Europe, that's important, the senior government source said. So that's one of the projects. Like out of the 5 of them, that's the one that really caught my eye. The export diversification infrastructure category is also one that could be have projects that start relatively quickly and yield good returns also relatively quickly. Those include 2 broad types of projects: energy and natural resource infrastructure and transportation projects such as roads and railways, according to the source familiar with the government's thinking. The hope is these projects will create jobs while helping Canada's exports reach different trading partners. Quote, None of these categories are one project. They're all kinds of buckets, as the source said. There could be an infrastructure ecosystem, not just building one project, but building something that's a network that gets from point A to customers in Canada or to customers elsewhere. The third one that could be more interesting in this one as well are everything related to the next stage of nuclear. The Western and Arctic corridor also overlaps with another key category of major projects, the so-called next stage of nuclear, since boosting Saskatchewan's uranium ore mining sector could increase exports while simultaneously supporting Ottawa's ambitions for expanding the next generation of nuclear technologies. And that includes the medical isotopes as well that are generated. Ontario is currently constructing the first commercial scale small modular reactor project among the group of 7 industrialized nations. And provinces such as Saskatchewan, Alberta, and New Brunswick are hoping to follow suit with the help of Ontario Power Generation Incorporated. There are also proposals to refurbish Canada's aging CANDU reactor technology that could be fast-tracked under Bill C-5. And of course, the other ones being there, the main one being the Western and Arctic corridor, the one that we talked about there, which is that's an economic corridor that would connect British Columbia's northwest coast through the prairies to Hudson's Bay, eventually linking by road to an Arctic port in Grays Bay, Nunavut. Western premiers in May pledged to begin planning port-to-port infrastructure, including roads, rail, power generation, transmission, and pipelines, which could help deliver more energy, critical minerals, agricultural goods, and manufactured goods to Tidewater for both export to Asian and European markets. Of course, the most valuable but the most contentious component of the corridor would be the construction of a new oil export pipeline, potentially paired with a major carbon capture project in the oil sands tied to the Pathways Alliance organization. And recently, Tim Hodgson, our Minister of Energy, I believe, and I can't remember his full title. I should really start remembering it. But basically, the person that Mark Carney personally tapped to be Minister, there we go, of Energy and Natural Resources, who has a lot of experience working with indigenous groups to bring projects along, has mentioned, I think Friday as well, had announced a $21.5 million in new projects, most of them located in Alberta, having to do with carbon capture and storage, which is the type of things that Alberta will need. Now, the Pathways project is one major one, but funding these types of initiatives are clearly something that the federal government sees as attractive. So this is the one, of course, of the 5 areas that we hear the most about, mainly because Danielle Smith will never shut up about it. And she's basically said, well, Alberta has only one project that we really care about, and that's oil, and to the exclusion of anything else. I mean, to the point where she was asked, if you couldn't have an oil pipeline, what else would you put forward? And she had nothing. Nothing. She just went back to making the case for an oil pipeline because, it just has so much potential. But she doesn't have anything else on the plate. Prime Minister has seemed to indicate that inclusion of a pipeline is highly likely in the projects, but of course, she does have to be able to find a proponent. And again, she has to find a proponent that would probably love a stable and predictable and reliable business environment, but she's at the same time stoking the flames of separation, which runs completely counter to that. Now, of course, if she's not able to find a proponent because she's the one creating the instability, that will not stop her from blaming Ottawa for it because of that alleged production cap, which is not a production cap, and the alleged no tanker law, which doesn't actually prevent tankers, and the no new pipeline law, which hasn't actually prevented the building of a pipeline. But anyway, and EV mandates and everything else that they can, throw under the bus, including having to provide clean drinking, ensure that First Nations can have clean drinking water and fresh waterways. All of those things, right? If the federal government doesn't do all of them, she'll point to those and say, well, that's why we couldn't get a pipeline proponent. But it has nothing to do with the fact that she's actually creating a situation where the people who would build the pipeline aren't actually sure whether or not that pipeline would be in Canada once it's built. Right? It's not like we don't have any historical data whatsoever to show what happens to a province's economy when they start musing aloud about separation and start taking steps to make it happen. It's not like there's no example anywhere in Canada that we can draw upon to figure out what happens should somebody do that. Okay. So yes, right. Premier David Eby has not outright rejected the idea, though he has publicly said he opposes public funding for a new oil pipeline. Danielle Smith also says that it should not happen via public funding, as was the case with TMX. So there you go. But yeah, we'll see how these projects develop. But yeah, this was announced a bit. Sort of misannounced a bit, like that there was a short list being developed, and that's not necessarily the case. They're just narrowing it down to 5 particular major sectors that could have tons of different projects within these 5 respective buckets. The other track going on with regard to trade, of course, comes from south of us, because the orange shit gibbon appears to have completely given up now on the 90 deals in 90 days type thing. He has started sending letters to other countries saying, now, this is how much you'll have to pay to do business with us. Of course, extending the deadline for himself yet again, because it was the 4th of July, then it was the 8th or 9th of July. And, well, what are we today? Oh, well, the 8th of July. Well, what do you know? So he sent out letters yesterday saying, oh, by the end of this month, if we don't have a deal, then these letters that says how much I'm going to charge you is going to be included. They're going to come into effect until August 1st comes around, and maybe he'll change his mind again because taco. Oh, it is Taco Tuesday. Go figure. So yeah, Canada is not on that list because we weren't on that big board of the additional tariffs. We have enough anyway. So we're not particularly affected by this. But yeah, it seems that Trump published 2 letters addressed to Japan and South Korea, threatening them with 25% duties, with higher ones for items deemed to have been transshipped through their countries. He posted letters threatening duties of as much as 40% on goods from Laos and Myanmar, along with ones of 30% for goods from South Africa, 25% for ones from Malaysia and Kazakhstan. So yeah, he didn't get his 90 deals, and I remember him claiming that, oh, well, here, you don't have to rely on my take for it here. Why don't I just show it to you? This is from CNN, and a little bit of a Trump then and now, when it for your viewing enjoyment here, kids and cubs. Just 44 seconds, so I'll just let it go to the end here, and then I'll turn on the volume.
So I'm telling you, these countries are calling us up, kissing my ass. They are dying to make a deal. Please, sir, make a deal. I'll do anything, sir.
Why haven't we seen the kind of deals that he promised in the last 90 days?
Again, he didn't promise this, and when we send out the 100 letters to these countries, that will set their tariff rate. So we're going to have 100 done in the next few days. And
but that's not a deal, that's a threat.
No, that's the level. That's the deal. If you want to trade with the United States, this is.
But that's not a negotiation. That's just
many of these countries never even contacted us. So.
So yeah, in April, all these countries are calling me and they're kicking my ass. They want to make a deal so bad. Well, we're send out letters and we're telling them unilaterally what the terms are. But that's not a deal. That's a negotiation. Well, some of them didn't even call us. Yeah, because your Tribunal of International Trade ruled that these things were unconstitutional and illegal, and that's going to keep on going up to the court system. So why would anybody really want to rush to make a deal and sacrifice things when this court case can go up to a higher level, and that court can also determine, because it's now a possibility, even though I'm not sure how cooperative the U.S. Supreme Court would be, but could rule, yeah, in fact, no, you can't do that. And then all these trade barriers and whatnot no longer apply. Now, Trump will definitely try to find other ways to do it, but mainly the ones that he has stated, because, oh my God, there's a national emergency and, we're threatened somehow. All of those ones, he really misused that authority. And if it is ruled that those particular trade tariffs, unfortunately, the steel and aluminum tariffs that he imposed on us don't fall under that category, he did that under another measure. But all of those ones, the fentanyl ones that, for example, that again, there are more and more reports saying that there is no issue coming from Canada. Those ones were all done under some type of national security, national threat thing. And if all of those fall by the wayside, then why wouldn't nations just sit back and wait to see if the courts determine whether or not they need to sacrifice anything at all? He is the one that chose to not do the thing the right way the first time, and then created this situation where, wait a minute, two courts now have so far ruled that this is illegal. So why don't we just sit back and wait to see if this is ruled illegal? Why give up anything before we know for sure what the state of play is? So of course nobody's calling. And the couple of deals that he has are not really deals. Right? It's not like this 900-page document and whatnot like this, where every clause is there and it's been debated. These are not deals. So yeah, and you got the U.S. Treasury Secretary sitting on CNN trying to say, well, those letters that we're sending out, those are the deal. No, that's not a deal. That's clearly not a trade deal, a negotiated trade deal where you sat down and went through sector by sector and what are the rules that are going to apply to this and getting really specific. We're not even close to that. So yeah, he has completely given up on the concept now and has pushed back his deadline twice. I'm going to send you these letters. I really, really mean it this time. Make a deal with me. I need to announce some things. It's pretty sad, actually. Oh, well, I guess we have, I think it is till July 21st when our 30-day deadline is imposed, comes into effect. I have a feeling that even though we get a lot of talk that things are positive and progressing well, that unless this by moving this to the end of August, the end of July, can't remember now off the top of my head, sorry, I think it's end of July. By moving this one to the end of July, he may now puts that date past ours. Right? So if he needs something really, really big to announce, he might be more amenable to coming to some type of deal with us by the 21st. Because if he actually makes a real deal that we have no expectation that he's going to respect, but if he actually makes a real deal with us by the 21st and literally has something he can point to, because he might be able to use that to mask the fact that he doesn't really have any other deals and just keep on talking about the Canada deal, the Canada deal, the Canada deal. But we're in no hurry either. We're in a hurry in terms that we don't want any more disruption to our economy, but there is no first mover advantage. So, us going first is probably not going to, if Mark Carney is as strategic as I assume he is, will probably not involve us giving up very much, and Donald Trump once again having to say how nasty we are to deal with, which is a compliment, actually. So there you go. Kits and Cubs, that's the end of this episode of the Daily Beaver Morning Show. We hope that you love listening to us because we love making this for you. Remember, sharing is caring and word of mouth is priceless. So please tell your peeps and poops all about us. We really, really appreciate it when you do. And Kit Dan, I see that you might be having some good news coming up. I saw that earlier in the chat. So I can't wait to hear more about it when you're allowed to say more about it, because I think at the moment you're not. But it seems that things are looking up. And if that is indeed the case, my friend, I am very, very, very happy for you. And I'm sending you all the good vibes so that it materializes. All right, Kits and Cubs, if you do not want to miss an episode, because sometimes you are on the go and you are very, very, very busy, well, don't worry, because thanks to the Ray Girl, we are portable and you can take us with you. You just scan the QR code that is going to appear on the screen, and that will bring you to our pod page. And if you are listening, our pod page address is podpage.com/thetruenortheagerbeaver with a hyphen between each one of those words. And when you go there and click on subscribe, when we have something fresh off the bandwidth, it comes directly to your favorite podcast feed, just like that. No extra work required from you. We make it easy because we like to help. If you would like to help us in other ways, Kits and Cubs, well, then you need to surf on down to the True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated YouTube page. We are closing in on 20,000. It's very, very exciting. And you can find our buttons there. Like, share, and subscribe. Please go there and give them a little tickle. When you do, it helps us with the algorithm. And when that happens, good things happen to us. Not only do we get a warm fuzzy, but good things happen to us. By the way, if you are listening to us in podcast format and you are able to give us some stars and reviews, that also helps us with the algorithm. I'm so sorry. My nose is very, very itchy at the moment, so I'm just going to turn away for a second and give it a little scratch there. I guess I'm going to kiss a fool. Done. Okay. Now, for those who are listening, I just kissed myself on the hand. So there you go. I am said fool. If you want to help us, so yes, like, share, subscribe on our YouTube feed, share our podcast information or any of our content through your socials, because you are an influencer in your own circle, and of course stars in reviews for our podcasts if you are able to do that. Now, if you'd like to help us in yet other ways, we do incur some costs to bring the show to you, and we would be very, very grateful if you would be able to give us a hand with that, because it's not cheap, but it is a labor of love and we are happy to do it. So if you would, we would very much appreciate a donation to the Eager Beaver Lodge Emergency Hydration Fund, where every day we do our best to fight the scourge that is dry beaver. Dry beaver. Not a happy situation at all. So if you would like to do that, or you just like what we do and you want to encourage us to do more, a contribution to our emergency hydration fund gives a little add a beaver to me and an add a grizzly to Mr. Grizzly, a cup of hot chocolate for me, and a cup of bitter, dark, black coffee for Mr. Grizzly. It brings a joy to our souls. It helps us wake up in the morning and be chipper and perky, and to bring this wonderful show for you. And it also helps us throughout the day to prepare the content that we deliver to you. So we thank you for your generous support, and please know that we are very grateful, and everything does go back into the show. Now, if Kits and Cubs, you would like to write to us, for example, because you're buying Canadian and want to make sure that your contribution is fully Canadian, you can use our email address to avoid the CE Tech Bros to send us a bank transfer. But you can also use our email address, truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com, to let us know what you think about the show. If you've got compliments, constructive criticism, suggestions for guests, if you've got some questions that you want to ask us about the show or about some particular topics, please do send them to truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com. And if you want to communicate with us via our socials, @TrueEager at the Blue Sky Beaver Lodge, on the Jitter, True North Eager Beaver on Facebook, our original home, and of course our YouTube page, whether you are listening live with the DAMFAM or on your own time. There's a comment section down below. Just leave us a little something. We read absolutely everything, even though we're not able to answer everyone. And again, all of your comments get worked back into the show, and we use it to improve the quality of our product for you. And we thank you so much for doing this, because it's your show too, and we really do appreciate your participation. Kids and cubs, because democracy is something that you do, if you have the opportunity, because you live in Alberta and want the creation of or the revival of the Progressive Conservative Party of Alberta, then you need to go to their petition, which is at mypcalberta.ca. And if you are interested in getting involved in the push for that, the email address is connect@mypcalberta.ca. So I'm going to just put those things in the chat there. So the first address in the chat is for if you want to help, and the other one, the second one here, is if you do want to sign the petition. They need just under 9,000 signatures in order to register officially with Elections Alberta, to get the process of becoming an officially registered party underway. And of course, more democracy, more options, always a good idea. And of course, we're keeping an eye on what's going on with the Forever Canadian appeal by Thomas Lukasik, because when that's ready, that will need a significantly higher number of signatures, and we want to encourage you to get involved in that as well, kids and cubs. Words of wisdom. Today I'm a little short on wisdom, but I am going to say that if you need to deny other people drinking water in order to be economically viable, perhaps you should step aside and allow someone else to take over the reins, someone else who might be able to do the job the right way. Those are not words of wisdom necessarily for you, kids and cubs, but for a couple of people who seem to be desperately in need of it these days. I'll just leave that there like that. Kids and cubs, it could be a tough world out there, so please be kind to and gentle with yourselves. Now, at the count of 3, if I may make a very humble request, could you please, all together in unison with your beautiful, gorgeous, and melodic voices, say, Mr. Beaver, please cue the cock on 1, 2, 3. Oh, yeah. That is the good stuff right there. You want it? You got it. You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters, CanadianTarot.com, their uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community, and the Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from farm fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. We are grateful to the Crier Media Network for its support, Pete Jarvis for our artwork, and Paul Joseph Something for our opening and closing sequence music. All right, kids and cubs, tiny Easter egg for you. All I got for you today is a little bit of news from Wimbledon. The last Canadian standing, Gabriela Dabrowski in women's doubles, has advanced to the quarterfinal with her partner Aaron Routliffe. So hopefully there will be continued success there. Of course, Gabriela Dabrowski competed a lot last year while dealing with a breast cancer diagnosis, and seems to be regaining form over the course of the past few weeks. So last year they made it to the final and were a finalist. Hopefully this year they can make it to the final and this year clinch the crown or the cup, as the saying goes. All right, kids and cubs, that's all I have for you today. Amour et bisous. And we will see you tomorrow. Thank you so much for joining us and keeping me and Mr. Grizzly lovely company today. We always appreciate it when you take some time to stop into the Beaver Lodge. See you soon.